Christians have been encouraged to always avoid any satanic behavior that might lead them into temptation, especially at this time when churches are still closed. This message was delivered by Reverend Titus Baraka, who led the Mass at the home of Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, Stephen Kazimba Mugalu, in a scientific service. The Archbishop also prayed for the soul of his fallen friend and Archbishop of the Orthodox Church, Jonah Lwanga.
At the moment, schools, churches and other institutions are still closed due to the deadly COVID-19 pandemic which broke out and left many dead. Currently, churches have also been advised to hold their services scientifically or online.
That are watching us through the different media platforms.
As it has become the new normal, today the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, Stephen Samuel Kazimba Mugalu, led the Mass again at his home. The Archbishop today also prayed for the soul of his fallen colleague, Metropolitan Jonah Lwanga, who died on 5th of this month.
I want to join you all as we continue to mourn the loss of Metropolitan Jonah Lwanga, the Archbishop of the Orthodox Church in Uganda. Let us continue to stand with our brothers and sisters and also join with them as we send off our dear one.
Although the prayers were led by the Archbishop, the sermon was delivered by Reverend Titus Baraka, who advised Christians and pastors to avoid satanic practices at this time when institutions for praying are still closed.
He also taught about social responsibility. How you do social responsibility about your enemies, about those who are poor, about those who are in need, about those who have challenges. How do you respond to them?
Baraka also emphasized that although the population may have a different perspective on how the Lord works for them, there is need for unity.
Who approach God differently, and those who are pagans, and those who also believe in the spirits, the spirit world. The spiritists, they are there. The diviners are there. The sorcerers are there.
The scientific prayers at the Archbishop Kazimba's residence were also graced by the resident district commissioner for Kalungu, Maria Mugisha, who said God has enabled them to fight the machete-wielding assailants.
You have been hearing the Bijambia, but we praise to God. The one who gave us the president of this country, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, he will see us through. So, my Lord Bishop, my Lord Archbishop, that is the reason I have come here to represent my fellow RDCs. We pray for this country. We pray for Greater Masaka, where I have been serving. I'm happy that I'm here. The Bijambia people, they didn't come across to me.
The Archbishop to date has continued to advise Christians to follow the Lord's teaching and to prepare themselves till the day places of worship will be opened. Report compiled by Chris Semalimu Semakula for CTV, PM Edition.
Today has been day 2 of mourning of the fallen Archbishop Metropolitan Jonah Lwanga at St. Nicholas Church in Namungoona. A special mass was held and led by the Archbishop of Nairobi Makarios, tillyrides, who is also the caretaker of Uganda, together with Bishop Silvestro Kisitu of Gulu.
Today has been day 2 of mourning the late Archbishop Metropolitan Jonah Lwanga at the St. Nicholas Church in Namungoona. A special mass has been held, led by the Archbishop of Nairobi Makarios tillyrides, who is also the caretaker of Uganda, together with Bishop Silvestro Kisitu of Gulu. The mass that started early in the morning has been attended by dignitaries, and the government has been represented by the Attorney General Chirio Wachiwanuka. In attendance was the Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago, MP Theodore Sechikubo, MP Helen Nachimuli, Councillor James Mubiru, and officials from the Buganda Kingdom. The Attorney General Chirio Wachiwanuka said the late Archbishop has been a great critic of the NRM government, but nevertheless, they have taken his criticism seriously and acted upon improving.
The Archbishop has at times been a fervent critic of the NRM government. And he's been respected for that. And his word has been taken for what it is. What has been good out of it has been taken. What the government doesn't agree with has been dropped. But such it was his right. And such was who he was. And that is what the government respects. And that is why the government is here and has been here and will remain here.
Kiwanuka said the church should do its role, but should also be careful in the manner the message is delivered.
But because the church is, the common denominator is God, the church always has to be careful on how it delivers this message, because in here we have different political leanings, and the government will continue to play its part. We welcome the criticism, we'll always receive it. But like they say, and you know, when my Lord the Archbishop, when you're beating your own child, you don't strike too hard.
The Lord Mayor Yesterdday Lwanga has lauded the late as a man who has fearlessly fought for human rights and urged the government to work upon the many injustices the late has for long spoken about.
Human dignity, human rights, justice, those values, equity. He's been a fervent advocate of truth and justice, rule of law, constitutionalism, good governance, equity, justice.
He's a person who has stood firm on matters of rule of law and constitutionalism. He has spoken truth to power. When it comes to issues of justice, he's been very, very assertive. We hope government will listen to the message he has always been delivering. His legacy, we should learn from it, should guide us in the way we handle matters of governance and leadership in this country.
Lwanga said the council has decided to name a road after the late in appreciation of his tremendous work.
As council, we sat and agreed and passed a resolution that we should name one of the roads here after him. Of course, there are people who are talking about this practice that it's being abused, it's being handled in a manner which is not proper. But we believe they are great men who should be celebrated and whose legacy should be remembered, and they should always be immortalized on our roads.
Lwanga and Kiwanuka have laid their wreaths on the body. The late Lwanga is going to be buried tomorrow at the graveyard. Adams Mayambala, SEETV, PM Edition.
Relatedly, Metropolitan Jonah Lwanga will be laid to rest at the Orthodox Church in Namungoona, but the final resting place is of special significance and purpose. SEETV's Simon Chris Makanga explores the rationale behind the decision to have him buried there.
The fallen Archbishop of the Orthodox Church Metropolitan Jonah Lwanga will be the second Archbishop to be laid to rest at St. Nicholas Cathedral in Namungoona, despite the fact that he had wished to be buried in Ndegea Luwero district, where he constructed a school and the church, a place that is regarded as the birthplace of the Orthodox faith in Uganda. Dr. Nicholas Mukasa, who is the grandson of Spartus Mukasa Sebanja, the person credited as the founder of the Orthodox faith in Uganda, explains why his grave is isolated from the rest in the cemetery.
Because he is the initiator, they decided to lay his body up front the church, which he initiated. He's an initiator, like someone creating or trying to put a foundation of the house. When you found a foundation, that means there is someone who is constructing that house. Even if you add on more stalls and stalls, there must be a founder. So that's why you see it's written.
As per the plans, Metropolitan Jonah Lwanga will be laid to rest before his predecessor, Metropolitan Theodorus Nachama.
Advise that those who have been in the service are always buried behind the temple, behind the whole temple where they have been celebrating. So that is why we have the first Metropolitan Theodorus Nachama lying there. And it's the main reason why Jonah is being buried here. Jonah wanted to be buried in Ndegea. But the church decided otherwise and said, no, we are lying you behind, near Theodorus Nachama and near Spartus Sebanja Mikasa, who's just in front there.
According to Reverend Father John Chibuka Bosa, it's a norm for the Orthodox faith to bury people facing the east because it's a direction of the sun.
When it comes to burial, we bury people facing east. Why? Because traditionally it was believed that where the sun comes from, that might be the throne of God. God sits in the east.
Apart from the archbishops, there are also other people who have been laid to rest in the cemetery, including those that have made a tremendous contribution to the Orthodox faith.
But there are also people who sleep and they have nowhere to be buried. Less like foreigners and they are Orthodox and they die in Uganda and they are not able to take their body outside Uganda. Those are also brought and buried in the same place.
KCCA pledged to name a road after the fallen Archbishop Metropolitan Jonah Lwanga. However, Dr. Nicholas Mukasa says it's prudent to consider Spartus Mukasa Sebanja, who is the founder of the Orthodox faith in Uganda.
Like they keep praising those as missionaries who brought some other religions in Uganda, which is no problem. We also want him to be realized and recognized and also be named with something which is tangible.
This is where the body of the fallen Archbishop of the Orthodox Church, His Eminence Jonah Lwanga, will be laid to rest permanently in respect for his great achievements for the Orthodox Church. For PM Edition, I am Simon Chris Makanga.